To play the left hand for Elise, we still use chords, but we do something a little different with the chords than we've ever done. We arpeggiate them. When you arpeggiate a chord, you play the notes individually. Normally, if we play an A minor with the pinky on A, it's like this, and we did that in House of the Rising Sun. But for Elise, we're going to dissect that chord into the three notes that make it. Notice that it ends up with all three being down at the same time, but it begins with one at a time. That's how we create the chords for Elise. So that was the A minor. The E is next. It's great because we can actually hear the notes that make the chord. Back to A minor. Then we see NC. That means no chord. We lift up the hand for that. Back to A minor. Up to E. And back to A minor. Once again, we see NC, so we lift our hand because that means no chord. There's a repeat sign, the two dots and the two lines, which bring us back to the backwards repeat sign that's near the beginning of the song. And so once again, near the beginning of the song, we come in with A minor chord. Once again, E chord and A minor. After a respite, thanks to NC, meaning no chord, we play A minor, E, and this time we take number 2 ending, the second ending, the bracket with the 2 in it, to A minor. After the double bar, we go to the new section of the song, which is a C chord, arpeggiated, then a G chord, once again, arpeggiated. Now, I played my G chord low. You are welcome to play your G chord high, if you prefer it. They're both right. The thing about playing it low is it's even lower than A, which is pretty low, but it's next to A, so it's convenient. Because A minor, which is next, would be far away from it if you take it up high. But either way is correct. So once again, the G chord be down here or up here. Your choice. But A minor is definitely here. And then E, and then a very long period of NC, no chord. At this point, we're back to A minor, back to E, and back to A minor. Not as many chords in this one, thankfully. NC section, no chord, lift up, A minor, E, and the final chord for Elise, A minor. Some great left hand practicing there for Elise. To play For Elise by Beethoven with right hand only, we put our pinky on E. Now, we've been in this position many times through this course. A, B, C, D, E. In this case, with the right hand. So thumb on A. B, C, D, E. Okay, so this is middle C here. So to give you some idea of where the A is, C, D, E, F, G is the position we began in this course. We simply put the thumb on the next note, A, not H. Okay, since we have pinky on E, we need to know that the hashtag next to the D in the music is a D sharp. That's the black key to the right of D. Okay, so we're not going to play D natural yet. It's coming. The natural sign's coming, but we're going to begin with the D sharp on the ring finger. E, D sharp, E, D sharp, E. B is pointer. D natural has now arrived with the ring finger, middle on C, and thumb on a longer A as it has a dot. The rest were connected, so they were quicker. The next section brings us back to that middle C. But the difference is the only way we're going to be able to reach these notes is to spread our hand out, the highest note being B. So if our pinky's on B, then we pretty much fall on thumb on C, pointer on E, ring finger on A, and pinky on B, which is the perfect fingering for this section. The next section, however, has a completely different fingering in that it starts with thumb on E. Pointer is on a sharp, G sharp in this case. We've had that one before from House of the Rising Sun. B is next, and that way pinky's on C. So that's a completely different fingering than what we just did. Thumb goes back to E, and then we begin again with pinky on the higher E. And it goes back to the D sharp, just like it did before. Back to the E, back to the D sharp, back to the E. Pointer on B. Once again, ring finger on D natural, a plain D. C, and thumb on A. Once again, we change to the middle C position, but instead of the 5-finger position we began with, we spread our hand out. Thumb on C, pointer on E, ring on A, and pinky on B. And the final position, thumb on E, pinky on C, allows us to play E, C, B, A. Now we get another shot at this on the music because there's a repeat sign after the E and D sharp. So once again, as we began, pinky on E, ring on D sharp. We play the two that are in the first ending under the bracket. Go back to the repeat. Continue playing the E and D sharp. Now it's B, D, C, A. So that was a D natural we just played. Thumb on C. C, E, A, B. Notice that fingering. And a new fingering. E, G sharp, B, C. As long as we get in these fingerings before we attack these 4 notes, we're going to be fine. Because we're still in the fingering when we go to the lower E. But sure enough, we see NC, which means no chord. And that brings us up to high E, D sharp, high E, D sharp, high E, B, D natural, C, A. All that done in that one fingering, right? Because once we are done with the E and we get to the high E, we're in this fingering, A, B, C, D, E. But now we move to a new fingering, C, E, A, B. That little phrase, those 4 notes get its own fingering. Same with the next one. Thumb on E. Pinky on C, B, and this time we go to the second ending, number 2 bracket, where we land on A. Now we go to the next part of the song, which has its own fingering issues. Once again, starting with A, B, C, D, E. This fingering, I often call it the alphabet position, is really going to work for us in this song, repeatedly. Starts on B, B, C, D, E. Nice run. All fingers are being used here. We dip the thumb to the left for the G, and we shift the pinky to the right for the high F, and we simply descend down the line. F, E, and D was what I just played. Now the thumb shifts leftward to F, pinky to E, and down the line. Notice the pattern here. Once the pinky hits, there's a pattern of pinky, ring, middle. Thumb shifts again to the left to E, as pinky shifts as well to D, C, and a long B. We could use a long note. A lot of short ones in this song. Anything with a dot is long. Keep that in mind. Anything with a flag or connected, that's short. We're about to end it, so once again, the alphabet position. Ring finger on the D sharp, D sharp, E, 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 D sharp, E. You'll have it after that many of them. B, D, C, E. Of course, that last D was a D natural. We get in the fingering we need for this next section. C, E, A, B. We get in the fingering we need for the next section. E, G sharp, B, C. Which brings us back to the E. But then, once again, pinky on the E, high E, D sharp, E, D sharp, E, B, D natural, C, A. Change fingering positions. C, E, A, B, and the finale with thumb on C and thumb on E and pinky on high C. E, C, B, A. And that's for Elise with right hand only. At long last, we're playing both hands on Für Elise by Beethoven. We have the left hand ready with the A minor chord that's going to be arpeggiated, and the right hand ready in the A minor position. So both hands are kind of identical in the sense that A, B, C, D, E are underneath our fingers. All right, here we go. Right hand begins with no chord. And here's the first chord. Right hand shifts. Next chord. Right hand shifts. Back to A minor. Right hand plays the E and then back to the beginning position. Right hand shifts. Right hand shifts again. With the no chord comes a return to the beginning. No chord. And now the second ending. We're into the new part of the song, so a new chord C and a new right hand pointer finger on B. Thumb dips left to G, pinky right to F, high F. And now here's the G chord. I went low, your choice on that. Thumb shifts left to F, pinky to E. Here's the A minor chord. See, the way I did it low allows the A minor chord to be close to the G. And last shift of the right hand, thumb on E, pinky on high D, and here's the E chord. Now that's a very long B, but afterwards is a no chord section, which gives your left hand a chance to get to the next chord, A minor, and your right hand, D sharp. D natural and A minor, shift position. E, shift position. A minor, back to the A minor position with the D sharp. Then the D natural, shift position. Final position. And that's for Elise with both hands.